Comics, Cards, and Brew, the show where we like to drink beer and talk about all things comic related. And I would be remiss to say that I'm not like as giddy as a schoolgirl getting her first prom dress with having the guest I have here today. He has been featured twice in Wizard Magazine. He's got numerous accolades. He's got multiple series going that if you haven't read anything by this man, what the hell are you doing? And I'm sure most of you have because you've bought his latest series, which is Stray Dogs, that's been selling like wildfire across the boards. If you would please welcome my guest tonight, Tony Fleecs.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Did I say your last name right?
Fleece. It's like a.
I was close.
I didn't know we were supposed to have beer. Should I grab a beer?
Oh, of course, yeah, dude. Always brews if you can, for sure. See, look, guys, we all like to drink brews. You know, that's how we like to do things. Do you have a beer? No, you're drinking pre-workout. What is that? That's not a beer. That's like, he's being healthy over here with a pre-workout, and I've got the beer. What is he doing?
Nobody's being healthy over here. I got my COVID bod going. Everything.
I feel you. I like it. There you go. Now we're ready to go. We got our brews going. So how you doing tonight, Tony?
I'm doing good. I'm just working. We're working on Stray Dogs issue 5 right now. We're just sort of, Trish is inking the last page right now, and I'm just sort of like sending stuff to the flatter and sort of like managing files and stuff. And then I'm working on My Little Pony Transformers 2. So I basically just finished my Stray Dog stuff. I'm gonna go after this, sit down and draw ponies and robots for the rest of the night.
Now, because you say when you're done here, you're gonna go and draw. Do you have a set schedule for when you write, or does it just whenever the muse hits you, you start doing it?
No. Basically, with Stray Dogs, my schedule was just based on where the rest of the team was at. So, like when Trish was when she was like down to the last few pages or the last 6 pages or something, I knew that gave me like a couple weeks. And so then I would start. We always had the outline, but I just knew I had to get a script written, and then I would do a second draft before we would start working on the actual book. A lot of besides the writing, a lot of my job on Stray Dogs is just sort of like keeping everybody with something to do, so yeah. I would have my script done so that I could get it to layouts, so that we could get the layouts to Trish, so that we could get to the flatter, just sort of like keep everybody busy so that nobody's sitting around not doing anything.
Yeah, people sitting around doing nothing that doesn't benefit anybody at that point. There's nothing going on. So
no, especially when we get down, like our deadline for issue 5 is like is on the 17th.
Oh,
and so we've got a couple weeks. And so it's just like now everything is like, we've been working on it for so long that we never thought we'd get to the point where it's just like, oh, we got to have this done in a couple weeks. We always assumed it would just be done. But of course, life finds a way.
I like the reference to Jurassic Park there. I like that. I like it. Well, I have to say I never got to that point with my writing. I did books and I published a few books, but I never had like the deadlines I made. It was like, okay, I'm going to put a deadline in 3 months. And then I was like, oh, if I miss it, I miss it. But you've got those deadlines, you've got to hit those marks. Those aren't just like, preset things for you to hit. You've got to hit those, right?
Yeah. Or like the Transformers ponies thing that I'm working on. I wrote that too. And that's just a matter of like, the editor tells you when you need it. And I like to write like 2-3 pages a day. Like I'm not a full-time writer, so I don't have to do like a book in a week or whatever, but I can easily at the very least get 1 page a day done of writing. It's super easy. And once I'm writing something, if I just set myself a goal like, well, I have to at least get a page a day, then I'll get 2 or 3 done, because once you're sitting down, you're in it, you can do more. I found that was a lot more manageable than going like, I have to have this whole thing done by X day, like if I just say like give myself small goals, that's much easier to hit. How's my sound right now? My AC turned on. Do I sound okay, tech guy?
He walks around, he's checking it, and sometimes I'm like, what are you checking? I'm like, are you walking around like just to like walk, or are you checking things? Like you never know with tech guys. They could,
ghost hunters.
Yeah, ghost hunters. You could be checking for ghosts in my house, and you're gonna write anything like that. Geez. You never know what that. Yeah, exactly. But I have to say, it's funny to hear you say that you had to set goals, because when I was writing, when I got to a certain point, I'm like, okay, like, writing a novel is way different than comic writing. But I would say, okay, I've got to do 500 words a day, and I try to set aside time when I would do it where it was quieter, where I could put headphones on, listen to music if I needed to, and just get those 500 words out. And that was what I had to start doing. Otherwise, I'll sit there and go, oh, when I write, and nothing happens if you don't set a goal to be able to say, I'm going to hit this much today. If you don't do that, good luck getting anything done sometimes.
Yeah, I mean that in comics, like I haven't written a novel. I've only written comics, but just like the scope of it is still pretty large. Like thinking about this in terms of like 5 issues, whatever, 150 pages or whatever it is. If I thought about it in that way, it seems insurmountable. But if you think about it in terms of like, all right, this issue is 22 pages, and today we only got to get one of them written or 2 of them written or whatever, like that's very manageable and very doable. Even if you're like me, I was always working on other comics the whole time.
Oh, geez. So like because now you've got me down the writing rabbit hole, but they love hearing about the background on that stuff too. Like, so how many projects do you work on at one given time?
Well, I like to only work on one, but if at a certain point, like I've been working on My Little Pony for so long, the early part of my career was like just get hired to make comics, right? Just make a living making comics, and I managed to figure that out and get that going. But then after a few years, I realized like, oh, this is all I'm doing. Like I'm not gonna go anywhere from this because this is literally all I have time to do. And so I made a goal to make my own comics. And so then I would find time when I was doing My Little Pony to just take a little extra time to start writing something. I knew I didn't have time to draw it. So that's why all the stuff that I write, somebody else usually draws, just because to pay rent, I still have to draw stuff.
I don't doubt. I mean, you're talking about two very time-consuming aspects of the business. And myself, I never did anything art-wise, but I know just from the writing perspective, I mean, that shit takes time, and the people don't even understand. Like, I know for me, people be like, well, you're sitting in a computer in your pajamas writing all day. I'm like, who the hell have you been watching that you think writes like that? Like, no, like that's not how it works. I don't sit there and it magically comes out on the page. I mean, that's not how writing works. For me, I had to sit there and like, sometimes reread the last like couple pages before to get myself back in the zone. I couldn't just sit down and magically throw up words on the page. I mean, sometimes you get, and this too, you get hit with a fork in the road on where do you go from here. And part of that's the fun of it, but God, to do both the writing and the drawing like you've done, I can't imagine the time, how much time that consumes for you.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the writing is way easier, like, excuse me, comparatively, like you sit down to draw, you're going to be there for hours and hours and hours on end to get one page done. And you can write a page in 15 minutes if it hits you right. Like you can just rip through it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think definitely having been an artist for as long as I have been, it definitely took the edge off of doing the writing part, because it's just like, like every time I would sit down to write, it was just like, oh, this is nice, like it's freeing. I didn't have like that thing that you see people when they're acting like writers, where they're just like, oh, I see people on Twitter like #amwriting and talk about how like all the struggle, and I'm just like, this is the easy part.
I know. I would read that too. They'd be like #grinding, and I'm like, grinding. I'm like, if it's that, I mean, like I understand that you're trying to work hard, but if it's that difficult to get words on the page, you might need to either stop what you're writing and come up with something new, or maybe try a different, I don't know. I never had to get to a point where I'd like want to bang. Like I had friends, like I'd go to conferences and conventions, and be like, man, I want to just bang my head on the keyboard because nothing was coming. I'm like, never been that bad to where I want to bang my head on the keyboard. I mean, that's a little bit extreme, but you do you. I'm like,
like I worked at McDonald's when I was a kid. Somebody threw French fries at me through a drive-through window. Like I castled corn. Like I'm not. Anytime I'm sitting in front of a computer, I'm like, this is fine. We're okay here.
But see, and I like that too, that you came from such humble beginnings. It's not like you were just, this wasn't just given to you. I mean, you had to work hard at it. You started with the job just like, most people can relate to that. It's not like it was just handed to you and put in your lap. You had to work hard to get to where you were, and I love that, man. I really do.
But yeah, I mean, I had breaks and stuff, but I definitely grind for sure. That's something I do. I hustle.
And I think one thing too, when you mention breaks, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I feel like a break only comes to those people that are putting forth the effort. They're only the people that are putting in the hours, putting it like even with me starting the comic book store. I mean, you could just sit there and let it do it, or you can grind it out and you can put forth the effort where you're working hard every day, and then breaks do come. But I don't think they come to most people unless they're out there pushing for it, working hard for it. So the fact that you got breaks, I think it came because of your work ethic and how persistent you were to achieve
Well,
that.
yeah, for sure. I mean, like people say a lot of stuff has to do with who you know and like, you know, having people speak for you and stuff like that. And that's true. But also people don't want to speak for you if they know you're going to embarrass them, or you're going to, you know, like have somebody call them up and be like, what about this guy you told me to hire? How come he's not turning in his pages? Or, you know.
Oh shit! See, I didn't even think of it from that perspective. That's true. If they go to vouch for you, go to bat for you, and there you are in the dugout, not willing to come out and do what you're supposed to do. Yeah, that's damn. I never thought of it. I like that analogy with that. Well, since you're talking about it, let me ask you this: how did you start in the comic book industry? Like, and was this something that you had as a dream as a kid, or was this something you kind of fell into as an adult?
No, I always wanted to draw and make stories for a living. When I was a young kid, I either wanted to be in animation or make comic books. And I went to college for animation, and I sort of figured out there that like that wasn't necessarily the thing that I was looking for, you know, like just as little of it as we did in school, even just like the process of it, I was like, this isn't the vibe. This isn't what I'm trying to do exactly. But comics was definitely much more of what I was looking for, you know, like the sort of way that you tell stories and the control that you have. Like animation, I worked in animation a little bit, and like my job would be to like draw somebody has a plunger, you know, in a scene, and I would spend, you know, half a day drawing a plunger from different angles so that you could,
Oh my god!
you know, so you could send it to an animation company and they could animate the plunger, and you know, like we get the design of the plunger approved, you know, like very granular stuff. And my ideas are more like I have a more broad thing that I want to do, which you can do in animation, but you sort of have to get to a level, you know, like you'd have to spend your whole career getting to the level where you're the guy that gets to say like, what if a kid had a plunger, you know? And then you make somebody design the plunger. But in comics, you know, you can basically make a comic all by yourself, which is how I got in. Like I drew a comic, wrote and drew a comic myself, and I took it to convention, like a ash can version of it, like a preview version of it, and I passed it out to like pros that I liked and publishers. And one of the small press publishers that I gave it to was like, "Oh, we like this, we publish it," and so they did. And so my first book came out through Diamond and sold, you know, at the time I was psyched, but it sold like 750 copies or something.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I made it, you know, like I'm in comics now. And then since then, I've just sort of been, you know, in comics. I would meet people and go sell stuff at conventions and make relationships and get jobs.
Yeah, that's and I always wondered about that. I was, because even with writing conventions we would go to, there'd be publishers there, but it wasn't really. I don't know if I just didn't have enough drive at the time. I was a lot younger. I was only 20, 21. And I don't know if I just didn't have the confidence back then to walk up to those tables. But it seems like that you do have to be able to walk up there and say, hey, look, here's my stuff. Like, and if you don't do it, you never take the chance. You never know. And like you said, that was your first book. You did 750 copies, and now look at where it's gotten you. I mean, look at where you are today. Yeah. Had you not done that, we wouldn't have Stray Dogs. We wouldn't have all the stuff that you've gotten. So, I mean, thank you for doing that when you were younger.
Yeah, I wasn't going to do it. I figured like I would just put it online or publish it myself or whatever. Like Comics Press and Kablam were just starting to be things at that time. So like that was part of what, when I was drawing it, I was just like, well, if nothing else, I can just print this up and have, you know, have a few copies or whatever. So like I knew that it would be a book. I didn't expect it to be published by somebody. But a friend of mine was like, well, if we're going to this convention, print up copies of your book and give it out to people. And it didn't take like too much confidence because I felt like I was giving somebody something, you know, that wasn't like, I wasn't asking for anything. I wasn't asking like, please publish this. I was just like, oh, here's this thing. I'll probably print it myself, you know, like have a look at it. It was more just like sort of like giving people a taste of something. And so in that way, because normally I would be like self-conscious and like, well, I hope they like it, but you know, giving somebody something for free is just like, oh, here's a free thing, you know. If you want to throw it away, that doesn't, you know, it doesn't cost me anything. I mean, it cost me like $100 or whatever.
But I think that's true. Like if you go in there that way, you didn't go in there with you didn't reek of desperation. You didn't walk in there like, please
Yeah.
take my book and sign it. I mean, you went in there with the, okay, hey, this is the book I've written. Check it out. If you like it, you like it. If not, then I'll move on. And I think that comes across as hugely self-confident. And it's also then if someone reading, they're like, oh well, I want to read this now, because you're not like, please, I need this, I need you, and hovering over their shoulder, looking at what they're reading. And that at that point, I'd be like, okay, look, you got to go away, man. You had too many Funyuns for lunch or something. Like, don't come that close.
I've done both. And I definitely recommend just doing the one where you give something to someone and you don't care if they read it or if they publish you. Like that's the A+ version of going to a convention. Like that's what you hope for.
It's gotta be tough though. I mean, I could see both sides of that. I could see why at times, because there was times where I'd go to a book signing and I had my books lined up, and you want to be like, I'm like, hey, listen, you like Stephen King? Oh, come read this horror stuff, and you try to pitch it without coming across as desperate. It's a fine line between confident and coming across as, hey, I need you to buy this because I need the money. So I mean, it's tough to do that.
Yeah, I'm trying to pay my bills. Like I've got everything riding on this.
I'm tired of living off ramen. Damn it, I want a steak. Like, come on.
Me and my buddy Tone, who did the layouts in Stray Dogs, did a full issue of a book that we were just positive was going to get published somewhere. This is probably like 10 years ago now. Like I wrote it, he drew it, and we really like collaborated on it. Like the same amount of love that we put into Stray Dogs, we put into this thing, but it just wasn't as fully baked, you know. I was younger, and but we made a preview of that. It was like a high school, like a supernatural high school book, you know, like a character that's in high school. So we made a pitch packet that was like a spiral notebook, you know, and it had like a spiral notebook cover with like the character had drawn on the cover of it, and it had the pitch, and it had like the full comic in it. And I remember each one of them cost like $30 to print up this pitch, because it's like full color, and it has a spiral binding thing from Kinko's. And I remember I printed up like 10 of them, and so $300, you know. And I took it to Comic-Con, and just like the desperation in handing someone a $30 piece of trash, basically, you know, like that they would just be like, oh, that's cool. We're not going to do anything with that, you know.
Like, please wait, give it back. That's $30.
Yeah.
Don't throw it away. I'm going to come over this table at you.
Exactly. So much worse than just like the easy, cheapy, here, I made this, you know, like, I hope you dig it. It's fine if you don't. And that really worked out much better in retrospect. That's how I would do it in the future.
Well, now you don't even have to worry about it now. I mean, and speaking of with all, I mean, you've had so many successful titles and different series run that are available through Diamond, whether it's from doing the artwork or doing the writing. I have to ask you, because I'm curious, because it's hard for me to pick a favorite of what I've written. Do you have a favorite either series or book that you've written or drawn, and why would that be your favorite?
I think Stray Dogs is probably my favorite right now. You know, it's like people say it's like they're kids and they can't choose between them. I feel like I could choose. I don't have kids. I feel like I could choose if I did, you know, like this is the good one. This is the one that performs well, and I don't have to worry about it. And, you know, like it doesn't get into trouble. It's not going to end up pregnant. You know, like it's just
like there's no question. What do you mean choosing? This is the one. It's the one I'm going to go for. Come on.
Yeah. Every time it goes out, it gets a second printing. You know, it wins. It's a winning guy.
I will say, and honestly, that like, it's funny that you say that, because I did read like the My Little Pony and Transformers. I like it because it's fun. It's different. You're mixing two different worlds that are completely different. I mean, you're talking way, way different, but also very successful in the way it comes across. I mean, it's very fun. My daughter, by the way, she's 3.5. If she walks in, you hear her. I apologize if she comes in. I think they're probably coming home soon, but she loves.
You hear my daughter drinking water right now too.
I thought maybe just I was like, I don't know what that is. Could be a refrigerator thing. I don't know. But she loves the artwork on them, like the My Little Pony stuff. She thinks it's great. She's like, Daddy, what are those big robots, and why are they near a pony? And so for me, I'm like, but that's catchy though. That's something that you get that's not the same thing. And I would have to say that from what I've read from you, Stray Dogs definitely for me is also one that I personally can't wait to read issue 5. And I'm extremely looking forward to it, and can't wait to read it. Can you say hi? Can you wait? Say hi. No. She's shy. I'll tell her to knock the word on myself. Of course, she laughs at that. Look at me knocking real quick. Yeah, she knows. She loves the My Little Pony stuff, which is great. So I'll tell her later that you're the one that does that, and she's gonna go, oh man, she's gonna get all excited about that. But let me reset myself here now, since I had a little spill. Yeah. She got me a little bit excited. She got a little excited and hugged me, and I spilled my beer on myself, as can happen at times. Let me get back into my phone here real quick after I dry it off here. Don't laugh over there. I see my tech guy's laughing at me right now. He's like, he thinks it's funny. I don't think it's very funny there, buddy. Let me get back in here. Sorry about that. So I have to say this too. A lot of people either choose one or the other. You either choose to do writing, you choose to do art, and you actually have chosen to, you actually do both, and you do both very well. And and I know you said that the writing comes easier, but do you prefer one or the other, or is it just simply the one's easier than the other one?
No, they're different. They're both similar in that, like, they both have like sort of a sketching stage and like a concept stage where you're coming up with it and putting out outlines, or like in drawings it would be like the thumbnails. Like they're analogous, where they both feature a lot of the same stuff. So I don't know if I like one better than the other. I feel way more confident as an artist. And so like, if I'm sitting down to draw something, I don't have to think about it as much. Like, I just know that I have enough muscle memory and sort of like innate, like design sense or whatever, that I'm just like, all right, like I have to do a cover for My Little Pony issue 100. And I've done over 100, like 150 covers for My Little Pony. So it's due next week. I have no idea what it is, but I'm just like, I'm sure it'll be good. Like I don't, I'm not worried about it. But if I had to write My Little Pony 100 in a week, I'd just be like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I would be panicked about it.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm definitely way more confident as an artist just because I've done it way more. But the ultimate goal is just to do both, write stuff for other people and write stuff for myself, and only draw for myself eventually would be nice. Like I'd just like to be sort of like a contained unit, like a Jeff Smith.
Okay.
Or like a Scotty Young, I guess, too.
Yeah, because he what's the one, Strange Academy, I think he writes that one as well, if I remember correctly. But see, and to me, that just like, I never had the I guess I'll be honest, the talent to do a cover art. So I always worked with cover artists, and I finally had one right near the end of my my writing career, when I was doing stuff, who I would send her my stuff. Her name was Danielle, and I would send her my stuff, and she'd give me back like 3 or 4 covers, and I would give her like an outline to read through. She never needed the full book. She just wanted like an outline, brief description. And man, the shit that she would bring back to me, I'm like, how did you, like, in a good way, how did you come up with that kind of stuff? And it was like, she could, like, we had that good, thank God we had a good connection to be able to do that. But to be able to write it and draw it at the same time, I mean, it's all coming from the same source. So that's got to be in and of itself a, good feeling that I never got to experience. That it was always somebody else's cover work that did it. So,
well, like I said, when I first got into comics, like, it was writing and drawing my own stuff, and that didn't, like, at that time, it wasn't something that I could have kept doing and made a living at. Like, it was just sort of like a thing to get in, a thing to sort of like start learning how to do these things. But it's definitely my favorite, like, having the whole thing be from me. Like, I really like collaborating with people, and I like working with other artists and stuff, but definitely have stories in my like list of other things that I'm going to make that I'm just like, well, I don't want anybody else to do that. Like, I want to just do that one myself. So.
And see that I 100% I can relate to that, because near the end of mine too, I was actually planning a collaboration to co-write a book series. And there is something special about that, because one of you both bring your talents to the table and you create something that's really great and wonderful. But when it's your own thing, there's just that little sense of pride, and like, you're in control of all aspects, the world building, the dialogue, everything. It's all comes from one source. You don't have to worry about like, does this person approve it? and having to continue meeting. You meet with yourself and you do it. And so there's something I do envy that with you, that you're able to do both, because that would have been really cool to be able to write the book and then be the one to do the cover art for it. Like that's awesome. I think that's fantastic. And congratulations, by the way, on 100 to do the cover for number 100. That's huge.
Oh yeah, it's cool. I mean, I did a cover for issue 1. I mean, back in those days, there were just like 13 covers per issue or whatever, just like a ton of covers. But there was a while there where there was sort of like a running competition between a few of us who had done the most covers. And I don't know where I ended up. But,
I know where I'd end up. I'd get a stick drawing and I'd end up last place because I do a stick drawing for everything. Like, hey, is that Wolverine? Yeah, don't you see the 3 sticks coming out of the stick figure hand? Like, that's Wolverine, man. Come on. That's
obviously. But yeah, I've done a ton of those. So I'll be doing another one next week, I guess.
I like that you said, I've got this cover due next week, and I don't know what it is, but I'm good to go. The fact that you are so comfortable in what you're doing is, I mean, that's awesome to hear, because you never know. I always hear about people having deadlines. I'm like, does it make, like, I don't know if it would make me like stressed or if I'd be excited. I mean, I think it'd be a good mixture, but like you said, if it was writing, you'd be like, oh shit, I've got to get this thing done.
Yeah.
But when it's with your cover art, you're like, I know I'll figure it out and it's going to be awesome. Like, that's just, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've done My Little Pony. I've been working on it since 2012, pretty steadily. So like I can sort of do it, not with my eyes closed, but there's never a My Little Pony thing that comes along where I'm like, I don't know if I can, like, I got it. I'll figure it out. I can pick like, a handful of the over 100 and some covers that I've done that I don't think are, that I don't love. I mean, love. Yeah. I'm as critical as any artist of their own work, but I can pick like a handful that I'm just like, I wish I had another crack at that. And I think that's a pretty good average. Like, I feel okay with that,
Yeah, a handful to that. I mean, that's huge. And then now this is a personal question I had, just from one creator to another, is when you do like your cover art and stuff, or when you're doing artwork, do you have like, how many drafts do you typically go through before you're like, this is it, this is the final one? Like, how long does it take you to normally get that final copy ready to go?
I mean, drafts, I do a layout and then I do like a pencil and ink from there. So
okay, I knew drafts might not be the right word. I'm not I said, I'm no artist here. I used to just do writing.
It's basically like 3 stages, because I color all my own covers. And so there's like the layout stage, and then the pencil and ink stage sort of happens together at the same time. And then the coloring stage. So it's basically like 3, between concept and finished thing. It's sort of like 3 different chances to sort of tweak stuff and adjust stuff and make stuff better.
Now, this is me being curious, and if it never happened, that'd be great, but I could see this happening to me, because with writing, it did happen sometimes. Did you ever get to one where you got near the end, you said, screw it, this is not what I wanted, I got to start back to the beginning and start back at that first stage with it?
I mean, with my own stuff, yes. Whether it's with Stray Dogs or like other stuff that I've made and that I own. Yeah, when it's work for hire, because it has to go through approvals and stuff. Like once the editor says we're cool with this, or the publisher or whoever gives the thumbs up, I usually just go ahead and finish out that one. Even if I get towards the end and it's like little changes, like, oh, if I tweak this, or if I did this differently, it would look better. That's obviously like easy to change and nobody really argues about that. But I've never like gotten to the end and scrapped something, because basically you're already working on such a thin margin of like where it's profitable, like I have to get this done this fast. Otherwise I'm just working for sub minimum wage.
That's true. I didn't think about that, especially when you're doing it for hire, you're doing it for somebody else. Like you said, when it's your own stuff, you kind of don't mind taking more time or going back to do it, because it is for your own thing. But yeah, I get that. If I was doing that, was like when I submitted short stories to magazines to try to get picked, it was the same thing. Like, I didn't have time to sit there and go forever. When they gave you a prompt or they were looking for a certain story, you wrote that story, you were given the basic outline for it, you wrote underneath that constriction. So it definitely was more of one where I didn't scrap stuff as much as I did with my own writing, which did happen sometimes.
Yeah, Stray Dogs will like tweak and sort of like massage and make better up until our last possible, like until it has to go to print, because it's ours, and like our name it goes on it in the copyright as well as in the credits, and like nobody else is responsible if it's screwed up. So like we try to get it as perfect as possible. But yeah, if it's
it comes across. It comes across.
Thanks,
I'll say that.
yeah, I mean, we've poured our whole lives into it. For, like I said, if I'm working on ponies and then doing this, you know, as like a part-time job, it's our whole lives are into it. Trish has spent, you know, she says she's worked on it for at least a couple hours every day for the past 2 years. And then towards the end here, she's working on it just, you know, constantly while working a full-time job. So,
geez. And see, I think most people at some point just think that when it's something you're doing full time, or when it looks like when you're doing a successful series, like, oh, it must be easy. You just sit there and wake up and just do that all day. And even if it is something you're doing full time, it's not that simple. It's not like your responsibilities are just shirked and you don't have to do any stuff. Even if you're doing it full time, you still have to do other stuff. It's not like your other stuff just magically disappears and fades away into the background. It'd be nice if it did, but that's not the way that life works, unfortunately. And
yeah, no, she, I mean, the book does well enough for us that she could just do the book, but it's like, there's only 5, and then whatever else we're doing, but like, you can't just quit, you know, like if you're just stepping into comics and just sort of like, this is her first big thing, you know, like she couldn't just say like, all right, well, I'm in comics now. She's a grown-up, you know, she's my age. I jumped into comics irresponsibly when I was like 25 years old, 26 years old. Like, it's a lot easier to just take a flyer than now, you know.
Yeah, it's true. Because I think at 25, the bills and stuff that we had at 25 were significantly less, and your responsibility much less than. As I mean, I get it. It's the same thing that we run into even running a comic book store. I would love to jump feet first and just do this, but the problem is, you know, I got bills to pay. I've got insurance for my daughter and stuff. You know, you have to wait till everything gets lined up. And if you grind, I feel like if you grind hard enough and you work hard enough for it, you do get breaks and things do open up. Like how you were talking, I think that's what you have to work towards. Is not you get to a certain point where, like when I wrote before, I got to a point where I was like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore, because the money that was coming in was pennies on the dollar. And it got to where I was like, am I really using my time in the best way? And at the time it was a no. You know, my time spent writing, when you broke down what I was making per book, it just got to where, as much as I enjoyed doing it, it became a hobby. It went from when I tried pursuing it as a job to where it became a hobby, and I had to understand that and shift gears. And, you know, that took a lot to do. So I get how she's saying that, like, even with Stray Dogs being as popular and as huge of a hit as it is, that's still a big step to say, hey, I'm going to go and just, you know, do just this.
Yeah.
But let me show I got to show these covers you sent me. I didn't expect to get 3. I thought you were only going to send me 1. I have to say, holy cow. Some of my favorite covers on these, and the fact that they're signed just blew me away. I loved it. I mean, the second printing on that, I love it. She's looking out of it. And then that one, I'd never even seen that cover for number 3.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
I love that.
Those are the Collector's Paradise / Nowhere Comics store variants.
I love it.
And photo variants.
And now I got it, because now, of course, I gotta hit Stray Dogs, because it's just been, it's so crazy. And to me, straight from a retailer standpoint, Stray Dogs was a hit the day it released. Like the day it came out, it was sold out. At least down here and everywhere I looked, it was sold out everywhere. All the stores either didn't have copies in, or the copies were, like, I don't know if you knew this, the copies were $15 on Wednesday that it released. It went from being $4 on pre-orders to $15, you know, the day it released. And then once it did, like, even in my store, I had copies left of both cover A and cover B, and that shit sold out the first night. I mean, I had copies of both. I knew it was number 1. I wanted to order it. I didn't know a lot about it, but the cover, what got me too, was the Silence of the Lambs homage cover for cover B. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, that is so unique. And so when I had pre-orders for them, I doubled my pre-order thinking, okay, I'll have enough to keep for myself. Wrong. I sold out Tuesday night in the comic pre-sale. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to hold one for myself. I should be able to have one left. No, I had to try to place a reorder, which I couldn't get because from Diamond, everything was already on back order on Tuesday.
Sold out that day. Yeah.
It's crazy. So like did you have any idea that this story was going to be as big as it's become?
No. I knew it was different from the other stuff like that I'd made, or that I would tell people about ideas I have, or this one, when I would tell people about it, even before we started drawing it or anything like that, people would get excited about it right away. Like they would just be like, oh, and then what happens? Or like, oh, are the rest of them trophies too? You know, like people start to sort of like try and fill in the blanks of what the story is. And so I knew that was different. But yeah, I mean, my main thing was like, nobody knows who I am outside of like My Little Pony. And, you know, like if you have to be a very attentive Star Wars Adventures fan to, to be aware of my work, you know? And so I thought like, if it was me and I saw this book coming out, I would probably take a shot on it, but I will take flyers on books all the time, you know, just like, oh, that looks interesting. And so I didn't expect that other people would do that in the case of our book. But I knew that the premise would get us like a few eyeballs, you know, just like if I could get the word out there that this is what this book is about. But I did not expect it to do as well as this. And I think it coming from Image worked very well in our favor, just because people trust that as sort of a mark of at least a certain level of quality, you know, like if they heard about the thing, they heard what it was about, or they heard it's like a creepy book with dogs or whatever, and they're like, that sounds weird, but Image, so it's probably not awful, you know, like
No,
it's probably at least okay.
Yeah, and then that's true too. When I went, because every time I do orders, I always look at number ones more closely, because for me as a collector, when I used to collect, I loved trying new series that weren't the typical superhero stuff. Like as a kid, I liked superhero stuff because as a kid, you're learning what you like, you're expanding on your taste. But now as an adult, I like unique stories, something that's different. So when I saw this come out, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to order them. And what I did and didn't tell my customers, they're going to know this now. When it came in, I read one of them before I sold it. Now, someone bought it has it now, but I had to read it to see. And man, I'll tell you, it's one of those ones where you don't know where it's going at first. And that first one really issue 1 ends on a huge cliffhanger. I mean, when that scarf comes into it, you're like, oh shit, this is what she's seeing with her owner. What the hell's going? It leaves you from, oh, she's being, because in the very beginning she's going to the vet, and you're like, okay, this is nice. And then you're like, where's she now? What's going on? She has amnesia. And then when it ends, you're like, I remember going, oh shit, like when's number 2 coming out? I got to know what the hell's going on with these. Like, what is happening here? I mean, it's and the thing is, it's across the board. Everybody has now. Because it's one thing to have a number 1 sell out, that would be, which is still crazy to have it be that hot. But now you have 2, 3, and 4, and now with 4, you've got consistently selling out. You're having to do multiple second prints, third prints. I mean, that is.
We haven't done third yet, but yeah,
it's gonna come. I guarantee you, it's coming. Because the second print I had for number 1, I ordered extra on that one too, and I have nothing left for myself again. So
yeah, they said they're getting low on their stock at time, and I keep like sort of tabs on it enough to know like, should we be thinking about what a third print would look like, or and because we're doing Free Comic Book Day too.
Yes, I ordered 30 of those, by the way, and I guarantee you I won't be able to keep one for myself.
Well, yeah, not at that price. But that's a reprint of number 1 as well, so it seems like there will be a lot of interest in getting 2, 3, 4, and 5, because the trade doesn't come out for like another month or so after that. So there will be like this period where if people read that on Free Comic Book Day, they're going to want to read the rest of it. I don't know how to prognosticate or predict printings are going to do, but it seems to have been doing, like, we try to put a good cliffhanger on the end of every issue. And so far, every time an issue comes out, people are just like, well, when's the next one? You know, like, because
no, it is. I mean, it is, because then number 2, then you have the other dog that now sees a picture and goes, wait, that's my owner. So you have it now expanding to where it's not just her who's remembering other stuff. And you're like, damn, like, is everyone like, what is going on with this? And to me, like, when I found it was only 5 issues, I'm like, well, shit. I'm like, it's going to be done at 5 issues. Like, did you plan it to be 5 issues from the beginning, or you did? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's sort of like a complete story. It's like a novel or like a graphic novel, but with chapters that are like, I wanted it to be a full piece. Like when I laid it all out, it was one big piece. It was like a story. But each of the chapters was very important to me, that they each felt like a thing, you know, they felt like an individual thing and had an individual beginning, middle, and end. Like, I hate when you're doing a mini series or you're reading like an arc and you get to issue 3 and it's just like, well, that was the third one. You know, like,
no, it's true.
And so it was important to, like, I wanted it to be a comic book, but also obviously like it's a full finished story, like in 5 issues. And 5 issues was partially what we could manage, like what we could handle doing for, before it got picked up by Image or anything like that. It was just a matter of like, do we have the bandwidth to make, 100 and some pages of this comic? And I knew that I could, because the writing part is the easy part. But like I said, Trish is, brand new to this, and she could do about 2 pages a week. And so I knew that meant that's, like at least a year, but like that's asking a lot of somebody to spend all their free time for a year, making a thing. And it ended up taking us longer than that, just because she got other work or other things, health things, or, but we planned it to be 5 because of the bandwidth, but also like in the outline of what the story was, it was just like, this fits into 5. 6 would have been, there's like being close to the end of the thing now, there's a couple places where I'm like, I would like to have 1 more page here and there. And it's possible for like the trade, we would go and put like a little bit of, spacing or whatever, but
Okay.
like George Lucas it,
Yeah, exactly. I was just
special
thinking
edition.
in my head. I was just thinking that. I'm like, oh, what about how they did the original ones in 1999 with the?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
But yeah, 5 issues was definitely always the plan. And then we're planning on doing another, it's either a 1-shot or it's like 2 issues. It's like an oversized thing, or it's 2 regular size issues towards the end of this year, beginning of next year. That's sort of like in the way that this is like a Disney movie, like if you picture Stray Dogs as like a Disney movie or a Don Bluth movie or whatever, the thing we're doing for later this year is sort of like the direct-to-video sequel, where it's like, it's not a sequel so much as it's just like, it's the characters, and it sort of fills in blanks, or it's like prequel stuff. Or remember they did like a Beauty and the Beast part 2 that just was like, it took place at Christmas when she was captured in the Beast Castle.
Christmas one. Oh yeah, my daughter likes that one and I don't. She pulled up. Like, I'm like, really? I'm like, we're watching this one again. Okay, here we go. Like,
so that's what we're making. The one you don't like, we're gonna make later on this year.
Okay, but now wait a minute. If you're talking, if it's for Stray Dogs, I'm sure I'm gonna like it. That's different. We're talking Beauty and the Beast here. There's not much I can, I'm like,
good song
because I'm Harry, like,
Yeah, you're the Beast.
Exactly. That's what she says. We'll see what happens at Halloween time. You said something I want to kind of go back to, was that you said before Image picked it up. So when you started writing this, did you have an idea of who you wanted to pitch this to, or where you were going to go with it, or like how did that process come about where you got with Image for this one?
Well, I wanted it to be an Image comic. Like that's always the goal when you're talking to publishers, because they have the best deal, and like I said, like they're sort of like a mark of quality, like you see that I logo and you're like, oh, this will be at least okay. Like it's rare that you read an Image comic and you're like, I don't see there's no redeeming value.
Very true.
So that was always the goal, but I've worked with IDW for years, and so I knew that, like, I know the people that review creator-owned books there, and like I knew that was a possibility. I sort of had a few places that we could have gone with it, but my friend Kyle Higgins, who does Radiant Black,
yes,
and he wrote like Power Rangers and Winter Soldier and Nightwing. He's a big fan of the book since before we started drawing it. Like he was one of the people I told the pitch to, and they were like real excited about it, and I knew it was like one of my better ideas. He's tight with those guys at Image, and he was like, would it be okay if I took this to them, and would you be okay if I showed this to them when you had a pitch? And I was like, yeah, obviously that'd be much better than like sending it in an envelope and having it sit on Eric Stevenson's desk, or being in an email inbox, or if I could just have somebody drop it off, that'd be great.
Yeah, but let me get back to you in a week. I got to decide about this. I'm not sure if I want that to go through or not.
Yeah,
that's awesome though. That's how it went about. I mean, it's because and you're right. There's something about Image is considered one of the big 3. You've got Marvel, DC, and Image. I mean, so it's worked its way up to where you look at a lot of the new series that are coming out from Image, and they're extremely hot and people want them and stuff. So I mean I think that's awesome that's how you got in there. That's very cool. I like that.
But like I said before, also Kyle knew that like I wasn't going to show up with some nonsense, like he knew that he wouldn't introduce me and then just have me, show my ass or be foolish or irresponsible or whatever.
Yeah, because then if you do that, it goes, then it reflects badly on him. Then he's then him like, what the hell did you bring us? Why is this what you brought? Like,
No,
really?
I don't think we want to make Radiant Black now, Kyle.
Oh my God, yeah. Can you imagine that? Holy shit, that would have that would have been bad for him for sure.
A bummer.
Well, now of course, now I got to ask this because Stray Dogs is coming to an end. That final issue is coming out in the near future. So with multiple accolades to your name, being in Wizard Magazine, all the stuff where you've come from, what's on the horizon for you now? Where are you going after this series wraps up? Can you say hi? Say hi, give a wave.
It's a good kid. She doesn't care about strangers. That's important.
No, that is important. You're right. Love you, baby.
I've got a thing that I'm working on that's still like in early pitch stages. That'd be my next creator-owned thing. And then I have like a couple other things that are just sort of like everything's just sort of bubbling. My Little Pony Transformers is like my next actual thing that comes out. And then I'm sort of in this nice place right now where we're just starting to get dogs money. And so I can sort of skate for a little while and work on all this stuff that I've been too busy to mess with because we've been so busy on Stray Dogs and all the others. Like I drew Rick and Morty this year, and I drew regular My Little Pony and My Little Pony Transformers. And so it's just been hectic.
Very busy.
And so I'm almost to the point, like I've been trying to sort of clear my deck where I can get to work on all this other stuff, different stuff. And then I have a Kickstarter that's going to happen right at the end. Sorry, my Stray Dog is being a real pain in the ass. I have a Kickstarter that's sort of at the end of this year. Not end of this year, end of Stray Dogs, like in June, for a book I made last year. It was supposed to come out last year called Time Shopper that we had at another small publisher. And when COVID happened, there was just sort of like delays in printing and all kinds of nonsense. And we ended up just getting the rights back. So we're going to kickstart it and do it ourselves. It's called Time Shopper. And it's a book about a guy that gets a job time traveling, and he's supposed to go fix like history's biggest disasters, warn the Titanic, and kill baby Hitler and stuff.
What? Awesome.
When he gets back in time, he gets distracted by how cheap everything is. And so instead of getting his stuff done, he just shops for stuff in time. So like he buys Action Comics #1s and buys cars for $3,000 and all the stuff.
That's awesome though. I love that.
Yeah, it's sort of like a real wish fulfillment type comic. Whenever I think about time travel or I watch time travel stuff, I'm always like looking at the stuff in the background, like, oh, I wonder how much that was. Like I could get that for that didn't cost anything.
But I love you take such a serious concept that someone's going to go back in time. We're going to right history's mistakes. We're going to right these wrongs. We're going to correct everything that's been screwed up in the last. And then all of a sudden, and it's like, wait a minute, look how cheap milk is. Look at all this stuff I can now buy. So you go off on a different route than what you expect, and that is awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, at the very beginning, he gets sent to Austria to like I said, to kill baby Hitler, and he's just real conflicted. He's just like, I don't want to kill a baby. Like, I know it's Hitler, but I've never even killed a grown-up. Like, I don't want to kill a baby. And then
the bar high on the first murder.
There's like an Austrian chocolate shop right next to the hospital, and he just goes in there and buys enough chocolate to have like a 3-day long chocolate festival, and so then in the history books that now it's just like for some reason on the same day Hitler was born, there's like a 3-day long chocolate party held by an eccentric millionaire, so dumb shit like that. But we're very excited about it. It's going to be a cool project because it's going to be like a European format, like those bigger hardcovers.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those.
Well, please, if you can email me the Kickstarter stuff, we'll share that out. I want to get in on that. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I'll let you know. I'll send you a PDF and I'll let you know when the.
Yeah, hit me up. We'll join in on that for sure. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. That's phenomenal. Well, dude, I have to tell you, man, this has been this last almost hour has gone by like way too fast for me. I can't believe it's already been the time.
Yeah, flew by.
I mean, you and I could sit here and talk with you for hours about this stuff. So I'm definitely gonna have you come back for a part 2 for sure, especially when you wrap up Stray Dogs and stuff, because this has been phenomenal, Tony. I mean, thank you so much, man, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna when Stray Dogs wraps up, Time Shopper will launch right at the same time. So if you want, I'd be happy to come back and talk more. It was nice talking process and stuff with you too. So absolutely.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I like to do too. I do have kind of a unique background from being not just the retailer side, but having the writing side of it. I do always try to delve into that because I love knowing about the process of how, because the comic writing is very different than the novel writing is. So it's always awesome to be able to compare that stuff and go back and forth with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was nice talking about it.
Well, I appreciate it, Tony. Thank you very much, man.
For sure, man. It's nice chatting with you. We'll talk to you soon.